Did you know that tactical familiarity plays a role in how well or how badly your team is playing? You can have a perfectly overpowered tactic, but if your players aren't used to the system, they'll likely play badly when they're using the tactic. Similarly, you can have a generic tactic with few instructions, and if your players are familiar with this game plan, they stand a higher chance of getting a success in most matches that they play. Hello guys, and welcome to DarkHorse FM. In today's video, we're going to look at the ways I've managed to improve my team's tactical familiarity in a few weeks, going on to transform my season from what we had before with a lot of defeats and struggling to score goals, and to go on and play over 5 games without conceding any goals. Just the 1 goal against Paderborn in a 4-1 victory away from home. The first thing I identified was a problem had a lot to do with the dynamics page. You can find it here in the top left, just below the squad planner and above the tactics. In the dynamic page, the first thing I realized I had to do was to get my players on board with the philosophy that I was bringing into the club. At the start of my save, and most likely at the start of your save as well, your team cohesion is going to be very low. Your club atmosphere might be good or fairly good, but your leadership support from the group of players that you have in your squad will likely be low as well. So you need time to get your players to familiarize themselves with the tactic that you're bringing into the team, and also tie your tactic to the players that you have and the attributes that they have in the team. So you can't go on to play a disciplined possession-based style of play with a group of players that aren't very comfortable playing with the ball in possession. But why is the dynamic page important? Why I brought you here is because you're going to have to check the squad hierarchy in this case, and that you can find those players that are key to how everybody else responds. Your team leaders, these 3 players here, Loibot, Shinalu and Jata, those are the 3 key players in the team. If these players are happy, it's more likely that every other player in the squad is going to follow along. But if these players are not feeling very good, or they are not supporting you as a manager, you're going to struggle to get all the other players as well to be on board with your system. So what I had to do was to identify these guys and make sure that they were always happy more often than not, because a happy player means they're going to train better, and they're also going to improve with their tactical familiarity a lot faster. Glatzel is another player that I identified in the team, Robert Glatzel. He is a target forward, but at first I started playing him as a pressing forward. You'd notice that he has the capacity to play as a pressing forward, but that helped us, or let me say, that brought most of our struggles when we're trying to create goals and trying to create chances. Switching Gratzel from a pressing forward in attack duty to a target forward on attack duty changed our dynamic significantly, and he started getting more goals. He started playing better and also bringing in more players, and they were playing better as a whole. You'd notice that the pressing forward role is still here. That's because I have a backup striker in Königsdorfer. He is a German striker, actually very fast. So I opted to use him as the alternative to my target forward in case Glatzel was somehow injured. So that's another thing you're going to want to look at. Your alternative striker may not be a target forward, so you have a backup player ready and a backup role for the backup player to play. That also helps with tactical familiarity, and it's key that you don't change things too much in the tactic, as this helps your players grow in tactical familiarity as well. Another thing that is key to tactical familiarity is your players' training schedules, or there's less specifically individual training schedules. What you want to do is to go into your individual training schedule in your training hub. Just go over to training here and then switch to individual. In the individual tab, you'll see a list of your players. More often than not in Football Manager, you could have it on the details tab, so you can just switch it from the details tab to the list tab. It's important to look at it from the list point of view, because what you want to do is one by one go over all your players and recall your tactic and the roles that you're using in your tactic. Try to select those player roles. For example, my super keeper in Daniel Fernandez, he is a super keeper playing on support duty. That's because he's well suited to play on support as well. So what you have to do is to go into the training session, look at his individual role and switch him to play either as a super keeper on support or a super keeper on attack. That way he's training the specific attributes based on that role, and he can improve his tactical familiarity for that role. You'd notice that I did the same thing for Robert Glatzel here at the bottom. He is training as a target forward on support, and also my central defenders, since I'm using ball playing defenders as my central defenders, all of them are training as ball playing defenders. Still on training, you're going to want to include enough rest days and match preparation training to help your players train enough, rest and recover, and then train again, and also practice for matches. But match preparation is it's very important in trying to increase your tactical familiarity. Let's look at a training schedule, for example, and then see what a normal training session or training schedule looks like. Let's say you have a match day on Saturday, I'm looking at match day, include match day into Saturday. A system that works for me is to start from the match day period and try to include training schedules backwards. So on Friday, we'll probably look at match preparation, like I mentioned, very important. You can use match tactics to try and work on the tactic for the next game, or if you're playing against a lesser team, you can use the attacking movement training or match preparations. You can, if you're playing against a stronger team, you can use defensive shape or teamwork sessions. Just have those in there. After including match preparation training, you can go on to just notice that I've actually added 2 rest days. There's a rest period in between this training session and there's another rest period here in the day before. So what I want to include next is the tactical training. So this is defensive shadow play and attacking shadow play. This helps your team familiarize themselves with the tactic. What they kind of do is play without the ball, kind of. So you notice that tactical or defending shadow play works on specific tactical and mental side of the defensive phases of the game. So your players are practicing what they're going to do in game defensively. There's also attacking shadow play. You can go on to include those, or you can include them in a different day. Let's look for attacking shadow play here in the tactical sense and include attacking shadow play. Under match preparation, match practice is one of the most important training schedules you can use to improve your familiarity. But the thing about match practice is this: it's quite demanding. So if you include match practice here, you notice that the intensity goes all the way up. So I like to include match practice for sessions when I know the game that is coming up is going to be easy, or when we are not having a lot of fixture congestion. You can go on to include match practice. I'm going to include it here as the second session of that day, and then attacking shadow play is going to go up as the first session, and then that concludes that day. Now we have 2 rest days and another rest day in addition to try and prepare. Now we're left with the first few games, which is Monday and Tuesday, and see what you can actually go on to do. What I like to do for Monday and Tuesday is to look at more technical and general training sessions. So for Monday, like the first one, you go for overall. Oops, I changed something that was wrong there. So tactical should be here, attacking shadow play. Then general, yeah, on Monday go on to hit overall training. This kind of covers your holistic approach, and you can see here tactical familiarity is improved using this schedule. You can go on to include rest day in the second session. Instead of rest days, you can go on to include attacking for your team's general attacking prowess, and then look for general training again. It's probably defending or tactical. I think tactical is quite interesting, so you can go on. This improves tactical familiarity a lot, so you can go on to include tactical here, or in this day, or in the next day you can go on to include tactical, and then allow the session maybe for another rest. But since you have a lot of rest sessions coming up towards the end of the week, you can go on to include defending training here or possession training. In your second day as Tuesday, you can go on to add another technique training to try and probably maybe chance conversion or chance creation if your team is struggling in that aspect of their game. I'm going to go on to include chance creation here, and then go back and loop in tactical training, and then voila, you kind of have your week all set up. As you repeat that over and over, you notice that your team is going to get better at doing what you're asking them to do. That's the roles that you selected and the team instruction that's actually included in the tactic. Your players are going to get better at doing what you've asked them to do in game. While every other thing is listed, the one thing that is going to be really important in this sense is to try to keep your tactic consistent. You notice that I have 3 tactics all set up. This is the 4-4-2 flat. I rarely use this one except on games when I know I'm absolutely going to win the opposition. Rarely come here. And then there's an alternative in this 4-1-1-3-1 system, and also I rarely use the tactic. So the main tactic here is the 4-2, or is the 5-3-2 system that I'm using, or 5-2-3 system wide that I'm using for HSV here in the lower league of Bundesliga. The idea about sticking to one tactic is that it allows your players increasing familiarity. If you're always chopping and changing, your players might get confused, or this will just slow down the rate of tactical familiarity. So stick to, or pick one tactic, stick to it. You can have alternative tactics that you can go on to switch for other friendlies, in-game scenarios, something like that. But the main tactic should be the one that you use the most up until the period where you want to get them familiarized with that tactic. Once the familiarity is through the roof, once familiarity is full, you can go on to tweak around and mess with things as you like. I hope you find this video useful. If you did, remember to leave a like on it, and also to subscribe to the channel so you can get notified when new tactic hints and tips and Football Manager tactic testing videos do come up here on the channel here at DarkHorse FM. I'll catch you guys in the next video.